In my last video, I talked about the power of words and how the use of words determines who you are and how you think. Today I'd like to expand on the famous quote that you may have already heard about, which is great minds talk about ideas and small minds talk about people. And this was a famous phrase coined by Eleanor Roosevelt, and the concept there was to encourage people to talk more about ideas than about people. What does this phrase actually mean? Simplistically put, when we talk more about ideas, we are nourishing our brain and allowing our brain a better opportunity to expand its worldview and to grow and put ourselves on the path towards greatness. When we talk about people, it becomes gossip, and the focus becomes on the other person rather than on ourselves, and so we are not giving our brains the opportunity to grow, and so we stifle it, and we maintain narrow-minded in our thinking. The reality of this phrase, though, is a bit more nuanced. Gossip in itself, or talking about people in itself, is not inherently bad. In fact, it's an evolutionary way of keeping ourselves abreast of what's happening in our social circles and in our community. And of course, often we do talk quite positively about people. The key here, or the trick here, is to figure out how to turn conversations about people into conversations about ideas. So how do you do that? Well, over the years I've become more intentional about catching myself whenever I talk about people and asking these two key questions, reflective questions. First one is, what can I learn from this person? And whether it's a positive act that they did that I really want to learn from, or whether it's a negative act or negative behavior, or a negative way of thinking that I should really catch myself and stop doing, or just not accidentally start doing those things. So the second reflective question is, do I want to be like this person? And if I do, then how can I intentionally seek out more things to learn from this person? And if I don't want to be like this person, how can I actually use the opportunity to learn why I don't want to be like this person? What are the things that he or she does that I really shouldn't be doing? And what I've also found is that as I start focusing more on growing my own mind, I stop becoming attracted towards negative conversations about people, because there's really nothing to be gained from talking negatively about people, because I don't grow. And I don't need to actually talk negatively about people to feel better about myself, because I know I'm constantly growing. I found that in the past, when I've been attracted to negative conversations, it's usually because you get an instant feel-good sensation about yourself when you actually talk negatively about other people, because you think, well, actually I'm better than them. But it also puts us into complacency, because it means, well, actually we don't need to work on improving ourselves. So over time, as you become less attracted to negative conversations, you will either find that your conversations with those around you change, or you will find yourself feeling really uncomfortable whenever those around you try to speak negatively about others. So what do you do when you find yourself being caught in these negative conversations? Well, here's some tips that I can give you. The first tip is, whenever they're about to start saying something negative about someone, firstly, check to see if the source is true. Ask them, if someone says to you, hey, did you hear about Jane? Or what Jane did the other day? The natural response is, oh no, I didn't. What did they do? But instead of saying that, maybe what you can do is to ask them, hey, where did you hear this from? Where did you get that information from? That signals to the person to say, well, actually I want to check its credibility before I just listen about it. And the second tip is to signal to the other person how uncomfortable you are talking about another person in their absence. So what you can say, look, I really feel uncomfortable speaking about Jane when she's not here. Then that also hopefully will help the other person reflect and become aware that, well, actually, if they don't like to be talked about behind their backs, then maybe they shouldn't be talking about others. The third tip, if the negative commentary continues to persist, then you might need to become more firm and say, well, actually your comments about Jane are inappropriate, because one, they're not around to be able to defend themselves, And it's not appropriate to talk about Jane's personal lives because it's really none of our business. Of course, the fourth tip is to signal to the person and say, well, perhaps I need to actually ask Jane what he or she thinks about what you've just said, or just wanted to get her perspective. So there you go, these are 4 tips that I've been using and that perhaps you may want to use too. But really what I found is that over time you just stop having these conversations because people will realize that you do not enjoy these conversations, they do not get a kick out of it, or they may change too and they may start talking about ideas. And here's how conversations about people can be turned into conversations about ideas. I really like the way Jane has actually tried to help those people around her, and this is what she does and this is how she constantly behaves. Gee, that idea is so good, like the way she goes about doing is great, and I really need to learn from them. How could I apply that in my life? Or, wow, Jane is such a great role model because the way she actively tries to improve who she is. How can I learn from that? Anyway, to summarize here my thoughts and reflections on the use, on the concept of great minds talking about ideas and small minds talking about people. Hope you've enjoyed my reflection and hope you've learned something too. If you have, and if you'd like to share it, please feel free to share this video with all your family and friends. And as usual, if you've enjoyed this, please click the like button and the subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you soon. I'm Jason Gray.